You're watching the Run For It YouTube channel. I'm Finlay, and in this episode we're doing a full review of the brand new On Cloudsurfer Next running shoes, which are On's latest running model to feature CloudTec Phase cushioning. Now, these technically replace the On Cloud Go running shoes and now sit alongside the Cloudeclipse and Cloudsurfer in On's silo of running shoes that promote a smooth underfoot sensation. Now, On suggests that the Cloudsurfer Next are best suited to shorter runs, everyday miles, and even faster paced workouts such as intervals. They kindly sent us a pair so we could test them out properly and see if this is the case. Now, as a recap, CloudTec Phase is designed to collapse in sequence, which helps deliver really smooth transitions from landing through to takeoff. These also don't have a speed board, so the cushioning should feel slightly more forgiving than the likes of a Cloud Stratus or a Cloud Monster. At the same time, the Helion superfoam in these is tuned to deliver quite an energetic and responsive underfoot sensation. And this is important because Helion superfoam is used in lots of different On running shoes. However, the exact density and composition of each model is tuned slightly differently so they can match it to the target properties that they want from that shoe. And it's likely in the case of the Cloudsurfer Next that this Helion superfoam is slightly denser, which, yes, adds some weight, makes it slightly heavier, but importantly increases the responsiveness of the cushioning. Now, one of the key attributes to call out in the midsole is the forefoot rocker. And that's important because this is designed to work in conjunction with the rest of the midsole to help move you forward and increase propulsion, which is why On are suggesting these are suitable for faster paced running. So how does the cushioning feel to run in? Well, the midsole feels relatively protective. While it doesn't feel firm, so to speak, it feels really responsive. And when you're running along at steady paces, you can feel this forefoot rocker tipping you forward, which makes it much easier to sustain your pace. You also really feel the benefit of that CloudTec Phase cushioning because the transitions from landing to takeoff are exceptionally smooth under your feet. Now, I've got to admit, I was pretty skeptical when On were suggesting that these are designed for faster paced running because they don't have a plate. However, I was proved wrong because I couldn't believe how dynamic and how energetic they feel to run in as you pick up the speed. I even tested these down to around 3:20 per kilometre pace, and while the shoe is probably maxing out at that type of intensity, the sweet spot sits around that tempo effort, and it's pretty astonishing at how versatile the cushioning feels. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying for 1 second these feel as propulsive or as helpful as a plated super trainer, but I am slightly confused as to how On has managed to make this midsole feel so propulsive when it doesn't have a plate. It really is very impressive just how dynamic and how good these feel as you go through the gears and start running faster. And it's fair to say they definitely make it much easier to maintain your pace at those higher intensities, which is again just very surprising considering that there's no plate. And yes, Helion Superfoam is branded as a superfoam in On's words, but it's very different to some of the other brand superfoams that are out there, and obviously On's highest energy returning midsole foams. The midsole does feel pretty comfortable for slower pace runs, but it probably runs a little bit too firm for that type of intensity. And the chances are most runners are going to find the likes of the Cloudsurfer and Cloudeclipse feel much more comfortable for that type of intensity just because they're softer and plusher to run in. In a similar manner, these probably again run a little bit too firm for those longer distance runs, particularly if you're running slowly and find at the end of those miles that your feet are starting to feel the impact. However, if you're the type of runner who just prefers that more responsive sensation, irrespective of what pace or distance that you're running at, then you're going to really enjoy running in these. Even though these are neutral running shoes, the midsole feels very stable to run in. A lot of that's down to the responsive nature of the cushioning. They also feel very good around tight corners and turns. I tested that out with trying to specifically take some corners at faster speeds to see how they would cope, and they stood up really well to the test there. You feel very planted and you don't feel really any lateral movement in the midsole. You can see on the bottom of the shoe that there's quite a lot of outsole rubber, so that improves your grip in wet conditions and also increases the durability of the shoes. Now, as of yet, there has been no squeaking from the On Cloudsurfer Next. We know some of you will be wondering if they do that. We'll obviously have to test them more and see if that's the case further down the line. We've also had some questions on YouTube about that, and we have customers asking us about that in stores. So yes, we will keep testing the On Cloudsurfer Next and find out if they do squeak down the line. In terms of the fit, they're not overly wide, but they offer an accommodating fit. I have quite a wide forefoot and I find they fit really well. They probably fit slightly narrower than the likes of the Cloudeclipse, and they definitely fit narrower than the Cloud Monster 2, which are one of the broadest fitting on running shoes. The heel collar and the midfoot offers amazing lockdown, and this is probably down to the padding that's on the inside here and then the padding that's on the tongue. There's not loads, but it really encapsulates your feet and keeps them feeling really secure. Now, one of the best parts about this upper is that it's inspired by On's pinnacle race day shoes, and that means it feels really lightweight. There's also very few seams and very little stitching too, so the chances of friction are significantly reduced. Overall, it seems like On have delivered exactly what they wanted to with the Cloudsurfer Next running shoes. They feel agile, responsive, and light under your feet, which makes them perfect for those steady pace runs and faster efforts. This means they have a clear place in your shoe rotation. On the other hand, if you're looking for one pair of shoes that can cover all your bases throughout the week, then the Cloudsurfer Next should be an excellent choice because they're just so versatile. And building on that point, we talk a lot about the benefits of slow runs and obviously going out and taking it easy. But some people just don't have the time for that. They're maybe going to do 2 or 3 runs a week where they want to get out there, push the pace and see what they can achieve. And if that's the type of runner that you are, then the Cloudsurfer Next should be a perfect choice for you. If I was going away for the week and I could only take one pair of shoes with me, it would probably be the Cloudsurfer Next, which is saying a lot. As a final recap then, if you're looking for a soft underfoot feel, we'd recommend choosing the On Cloudsurfer running shoes. If you're looking for maximum cushioning and comfort for longer distances, then we'd recommend choosing the Cloudeclipse running shoes. But if you're looking for a more dynamic and more responsive ride, then we would recommend choosing the Cloudsurfer Next running shoes. We also have a suspicion that these could be very good Hyrox training shoes, which we will test out and see if this is the case and report back on that in the future. That brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. If you have any questions at all, please put them below and we will get back to them as soon as we can. See you soon.